Morning, Laguna Woods. Welcome to Inspiration for Today. I'm so glad you are here today. This is going to be the start of a special 3 days, and I'm going to be sharing with you one of the most meaningful days of my life. It goes back to a verse that is in 1 Chronicles 16, verse 8, and it says this: Remember the wonders God has done and his miracles. Isn't that interesting that there would be a verse like that talking about remembering what God has done and the wonders he has done? This is so powerful because God wants you and me to not just live our life, but to note things that he has done that we might remember him. The word remember is used 168 times in the Bible. Can you imagine? In contrast, the word pray is only used 108 times, the word forgive 71 times, and the word believe even is only used 152 times. So when God asks us to remember 168 times, he must really want us to do that. In fact, if you're an Old Testament scholar, or maybe you're of the Jewish belief, you know that over and over the Exodus story out of Egypt is told. His character is revealed, that he never gives up on his people. You can have confidence in the future that he's done great things in the past, he'll do them again, and you can be thankful. And over the Bible asks us to be thankful. So I had a day back, and the year was 1979, and it was a 2 days actually that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. And whenever I begin to doubt my faith or to think, is God really with me? I go back in my mind and I remember these events. If you remember 1979, Eastern Europe was controlled by the Soviet Union and communist regime within those countries. But there was one country that stood out from all the rest, and that was Romania. Romania was the worst. And it was that way because they had a terrible dictator by the name of Nicolae Ceausescu. I think the modern day equivalent is in North Korea. But that's about how it was in Romania at the time. And I had a friend that came along, and his name was Joe Parker. And Joe was working, he and his organization, with the underground church in Romania and the pastors, and taking them study materials and Bibles. And he came to me one day and said, Rick, would you go with me on a trip into Romania and take Bibles and other Christian materials? And I say, what? Joe, are you sure you want me? Now, I had read books like Brother Andrew's God Smuggler, and I knew that God had blinded guards' eyes and allowed people to do things just like this numerous times. I believed those people, but I was about to see it for myself because I said yes to Joe. Now, how did we go? How did that happen? Well, the first thing is we flew to Vienna, Austria for 4 days of training. And during that time, we had to memorize addresses. We had to because could have nothing written down. We knew that when we would get to the border on the train, they would completely search everything. So the instructions and other things that we learned were we would put the Bibles and other materials in our suitcases, and we put a thin layer of clothes over the top of those. And then in my bag, we actually bought 4 pounds in bags of coffee, and we were told that part of the training was if you get into really serious trouble, offer them this coffee as more or less a bribe, so to speak, to let you go. And so we did all of that. And then the day came, and the way you go in, I think to this day, into Romania, you go to Budapest, Hungary first. And Hungary was communist too, but it was not oppressive like it was in Romania. So we go to Budapest. And wouldn't you know, the train that goes from Budapest into Romania is called the Orient Express. And you remember what's famous about the Orient Express? Agatha Christie's novel, Murder on the Orient Express. Well, I was already as nervous as could possibly be. I had spent those 4 days getting ready, and they said, when you get to the border, what's going to happen is that they'll stop the train. The army will get on the train, and they'll dismantle the train. So we get to the border, and I'll never forget it. We were in a little room by ourselves, and so it was just Joe and I. They took the panels off. They took the seats out. They did everything. After they put it back, they came and they started to search Joe's suitcase. And I'm just, Lord, please blind their eyes. Because I don't see how it's possible that we can get through this. They're searching everything. Well, the first guard went in and he went into Joe's suitcase and he reached down into the bottom of his thing, and I'm sitting across from him on another panel, and he lifted his hands out and said, "All's fine." I said, "Wow, I can't believe it. I don't even know what just happened." But I said, "Lord, whatever you did for him, please do for me, because my bag is next." He comes over to me and he starts searching around in it, and all of a sudden he starts yelling, and soldiers come running down the halls with their automatic rifles. And now you can picture me. I am, oh man, they've caught me or whatever. I'm going to make a long story short on that, but the bottom line is he had got so concerned. You were allowed by their law to bring in 2 pounds of coffee. I had 4 in my suitcase. He was so upset he never looked below the 4 pounds of coffee. And I'm saying, take the coffee, take the coffee. But his whole point was, this guy was so nice. He wanted Joe to take 2 pounds and I would have 2 pounds and we could just enter. Oh Lord, thank you for that coffee. So we go through customs. He puts the train back, and I'm praising God. We get to Timișoara, which is the town where 2 years later, actually less than a year later, the Romanian Revolution began, when people came out of a prayer meeting in a church and the army literally shot them all. And that was the start of the revolution. That's the town we were in. Now, we had been told that, actually, when we would get there, our plan to find a hotel for that night was, we're going to take a taxi. Now, one other fact you need to know, there's no food in the country left, so they had a general prison release. So we were told, don't talk to anybody, don't let them know you're not Romanian, and you should be okay. We get to Timișoara, and I don't know what's going to happen, because we're not supposed to ask him, I'm going to take a taxi. But there were no taxis. There was no gasoline, so there was nothing running. The only thing we could see were trolleys everywhere, electric trolleys. And so we didn't know, though, how to find the right one. We saw a long line of tickets, and here's exactly what happened with no exaggeration. Out of the blue, somebody came and grabbed me by the arm, me and Joe, took us to the front of the line, paid for those tickets, took us over to the trolley, pushed us on, and goes like that. 3. And we assumed he meant get off at the 3rd stop. I never saw that person. I don't know where he come from or how he knew that we were not Romanian even, I guess, but whatever. Was that an angel? I don't know. But I've always been amazed by that moment, because when we got off that trolley, we didn't wait in the line. We didn't pay for the tickets. No one knew we were coming. And when we got off that trolley, there was the hotel. I could not believe it. And I'm thinking, Lord, this day already is absolutely amazing. Well, the story continues on, and I hope you'll tune back tomorrow, because this is just the start. It's just as amazing tomorrow. So until then, may you have a blessed day.